my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Now today is a Friday Fun Day pattern. So I have this really simple pattern. I called it the Tulip Headscarf and Cowl and Skinny Scarf, and anything you want it to be. You could even use it for a belt. Wrap it around your waist. It's super easy and super cute. It's made out of 100% cotton. I used the cotton sprouts from Premier Yarn, and we'll talk about yarns in a little bit. And I called it the Tulip Headscarf because when you look right here, we have this stitch here where we stitched a V-stitch and then a 4 double crochet cluster, and it looks like tulips. Isn't that pretty? It's a wonderful spring scarf, and we did it in cotton. You can put it around your head, you can put it around your neck, you can put it around your waist, and you can make it whatever length that you want to. Now, if you make it according to the pattern that I have written, you're going to get a scarf that measures about 4.5 inches wide and about 30 inches long. But of course, you can continue the repeats, and each of the repeats is 4 rows. It's 2 double crochet rows, then a V-stitch, and then that cluster stitch row. Okay, and those 4 rows equal approximately 2.5 inches. And so you can measure and go as long as you want to or as short as you want to. And as you saw in those pictures at the beginning of the video, different ways to wear it. And I love an item like this that is super versatile. It's a perfect spring and summer and even fall accessory. And of course you can make it in your scrap yarns if you want to. Mix and match. I actually use 2 different colorways. I've got a solid turquoise, and then I've also got a variegated or striping yarn. But again, we'll talk about yarn in just a second. Now you can find the complete pattern with pictures on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make the tulip headband, scarf, belt, cowl, you're going to need approximately a total of 3 ounces of a 100% cotton yarn. Now I used 2 different colors. This color here with all these greens and blues is called Island Breeze. Okay, and then I used this solid turquoise, and I put them together because I had a little bit left on 2 different skeins of yarn. And you can do that, and I love how this turned out, being half one color and half another. I think it's a great complement to a lot of different outfits. And of course I went with some fun sort of beachy style with all the turquoises and greens, but again, you can do it in whatever colors of cotton that you have. I used about 1.5 ounces of this one, the Island Breeze, and about 1.5 ounces of the turquoise. All right, so you need a total of about 3 ounces of a medium weight 100% cotton yarn. The yarn that I used is called Cotton Sprout. You can see it is a medium 4, and it is 100% cotton yarn. All right, I love it. It's a super soft yarn, and it stitches up beautifully. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Now this yarn actually calls for a 5 millimeter, but I wanted to use the eye hook 5.5 because it makes it just a little bit looser, so it gives it a little bit of a lacy feel and a little bit of a loose feel for a spring and summer style scarf. You need a needle just for weaving in ends, and you need a pair of scissors. Now I'm going to show you how to make the scarf, and then I'm going to explain to you, if you want to make it into a cowl, how to do that at the end of the video. So we're going to start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 19 chains. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 chains. Now, I always recommend that when you're doing something where you start with the beginning chain, that you chain that chain just a little bit loose. It just makes it easier to stitch in it, and also it doesn't pucker it up. You don't want your scarf to be puckered up on one end or the other, or whatever your project is you're working on. All right, so we're going to start with the double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. We do not count the loop on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yarn over, go in, and do our double crochet. Now this chain 3 here that we skipped counts as our first double crochet. And now we're just going to stitch a double crochet in each of the chains across. And as you stitch this, you will notice it is a little bit loose. And that is the look that we're going for this particular project. If you want your stitches a little bit tighter, you may need to tighten up your tension. But the look that I was looking for when I designed this is just a little bit looser, kind of more of a spring or summer feel to our headscarf, cowl, regular scarf, belt. All right, so I'm just going to stitch a double crochet in each of my chains, working across. We began in the 4th chain from the hook, and we stitched 1 double crochet in each of our chains across. Our first 3 chains that we skip count as 1 double crochet. So you have a total of 17 double crochets. We're going to chain 3 and turn. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So we won't stitch in that first double crochet. We'll skip it and stitch 1 double crochet in the next and in each of our double crochets across. All right, so we chained 3, we stitched 1 double crochet in the next, and we'll stitch 1 in each of our double crochets across. I completed row 2, and again we have 17 double crochets. Our chain 3 counted as our first, and then we stitch 1 in each of those across. So we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. And again, the chain 3 on every row counts as your first double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then chain 1. Now we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and stitch a V-stitch in the next stitch. And our V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And then we'll chain 1, we'll skip the next 2 and stitch a V-stitch in the next, which again is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then chain 1. We'll skip the next 2 and stitch 1 more V-stitch in that next stitch. And chain 1. So we have 3 V-stitches. We're going to skip the next 2, and that leaves 3 stitches unworked, and so we're going to stitch a double crochet in those last 3 stitches. There we go. And we'll go ahead and chain 3. All right, so for row 3, we have 3 double crochets because our chain 3 counted as our first. We chained 1, and we have 3 V-stitches with our chain 1s in between, and then 3 double crochets, chain 3. And that's the way row 3 should look. Now we're ready for row 4, and this is where we're going to add those 4 double crochet clusters to those 3 chain 1 spaces of our V stitches. So our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we'll double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And chain 1. Now we're going to move to the chain 1 space of our first V-stitch. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and only go through the first 2 stitches. And we're going to repeat this 3 more times. It'll look like I have 4 unworked double crochets on my hook, which basically I do. Yarn over, go through all of those loops, including the first one that was on your hook, and chain 1. That's your finished cluster stitch. And then we'll chain 1 and move on to the next. Chain 1 space and stitch another 4 double crochet cluster stitch. Isn't that pretty how that looks? All right, so let's do the last one. 1, 2, 3, and 4 unfinished double crochet stitches. Yarn over, go through all those loops, chain 1, and then chain 1. All right. This brings us to our last 3 double crochets, and then we'll just double crochet in these last 3 stitches. And we'll chain 3. All right, so now we have, for row 4, we have 3 double crochets, chain 1. We have our 4 double crochet cluster stitches with chain 1s in between, and then we ended with 3 double crochets. And then of course we chained 3. So now for row 5, we want to get it back to a solid row of double crochet. So we've done our chain 3. We're going to stitch a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. There we go. Now in this chain 1 space, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now the next stitch we're going to stitch, well, let's get that double crochet stitch. There we go. All right, now the next stitch we're going to do is in the top of our tulip stitch, or our 4 double crochet cluster stitch. So you're going to go right in that top of that stitch and stitch 1 double crochet. Then you'll go to the next chain 2 space, or actually chain 1 space, and stitch 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Then you'll go to the next cluster stitch and stitch 1 double crochet in the top, and then 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space, 1 double crochet in the top of our cluster stitch, 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space, and then 1 double crochet in the last 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. All right, and now we're going to chain 3. But let's take a look at this. You should have 17 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 double crochets. And what this does by putting the 2 in between is it helps that tulip stitch sort of pop out of the scarf so that we can see the bottom of the tulip and the top of the tulips. So now for row 6, we're just going to do a solid row of double crochets. All right, so Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll just stitch 1 double crochet in each of those stitches working across this row. And that is just how easy this pattern is. You're going to repeat row 3, then you'll repeat row 4, then you'll repeat row 5, then you'll repeat row 6. So what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 3, 4, 5, and 6 over and over until it's the length that you want. And so for the pattern that I have written in this particular color, the turquoise, we continue to repeat the pattern for an additional 30 rows. We have 6 rows here, and we did this for 30 more rows. Row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, over and over and again for an additional 30 rows. And then we changed colors to the other color. And so we did those initial 30 rows, and then we changed colors to this color, this Island Breeze, and did exactly the same thing. 2 rows of double crochet, V-stitch row, tulip row, 2 rows of double crochet, V-stitch row, tulip row. And we did that for a total of 36 rows as well. And that makes a really long scarf or cowl. It measures approximately 30 inches long, okay? Now, sometimes it measures longer if your tension is looser, and sometimes it's tighter or shorter if your tension is tighter. So what I suggest to you is if you have a set length that you want this to be, you're going to use it as a belt so you need it longer, or maybe you're just using it as a headscarf. Take your tape measure, measure it. If it's not as long as you want, continue to do the repeat rows. If it's longer than you want, take some of those rows out. That's what's so versatile about this pattern. All right? And when you get to your last row, you're just going to tie off and weave in your end. Make sure you end on a 2 double crochet row. This one I only have 1 because I ran out of the yarn. And I need to do 1 more row in this color just because I ran out of the other yarn. Okay? But that's how easy it is to make the scarf. Now, if you want your scarf to be a spring or summer cowl, you can just drape it around your neck. I do that a lot because I have a tendency to lose my scarves. You can do it 2 ways. You can just put the 2 ends together and slip stitch them together. Or if you want it to be an infinity style scarf, you just take it and twist it, put it together, and that will leave you with a little twist in the bottom. And sometimes they lay so much nicer if you do that, especially on a thinner scarf. And then you just put the 2 ends together, join your yarn, and slip stitch it closed. It's that simple. All right? So this particular scarf can be a headscarf, it can be a belt, it can be a cowl, or an infinity cowl or scarf. So it's very versatile, and I want you to have a lot of fun with it because that's what Friday Fun Crochet Patterns is all about. So I hope you'll have just so much fun with this tulip headscarf, belt, cowl, or infinity scarf. Like I said, I love a pattern that's versatile.